Hey everyone, and welcome to Soul Money. My name is Ammie, and I'm here to have conversations about our soul money and all of the things that, come up as part of learning more about money and energy. So, today I want to touch on a concept that is part of the soul money framework, the key principles, which is radical truth, and this concept around dropping into presence, and what that means. These are exploring concepts that I've come across through my whole journey in my life, in learning about money and learning about energy, my background in yoga. And I think I'm not here to say these principles are not new, but I'm not here to also, tell people what to do. It's more about sharing what's inside of me that is and bringing that into the world as part of my own journey. So that's something that's important to say up front, I think, in some of these more philosophical concepts, because we can have many different ways of thinking about life, and this is my journey of channeling or bringing to the world what I've learned and what is within me that it wants to be shared. So I think I was, this morning I wanted to start with something that is so prominent in my life right now. Um, this morning, my kids were getting ready for school, and the kids are fighting over a toy, and they're both saying, this is mine and this is mine. And I've got a 4-year old and a 2-year old. And I think at around age 2 or 3, they start to develop this concept of mine. I know my 4-year old definitely understands a little bit more, and he is starting to learn about sharing and that, giving and taking and all of those things. But my 2-year old's very much in that place of just like fighting for it. And I think it highlights to me, this development at that age of what's mine and what's not mine, and this concept of, in what is mine, we sort of create an identity around that. And so when we're given this in our life from our parents and from wherever we're born, like we can be born into whatever paradigm we're born into, there's this developing identity as we go through childhood that creates this sense of what's mine. And I think as we go out into adulthood and we learn different things and we go on a path of a journey of learning and having experiences, there comes a point where we start to really question, well, what's mine and what's useful, a bit more than what's mine. There's that concept around fighting for our limitations, and this comes back to this underlying belief in what is mine. And if we go through our life and never really question that, then there'll be experiences, I'm sure, that will come up that will start to ask us, well, is this really what we want to believe? Is this really what is ours to defend? And in the concept around money, this is a huge part of the soul money story, which is we have to rewrite our story to really fit with who it is that we represent in the world. It's an ever evolving journey, but the money story that we get given sometimes can be just subconsciously running the decisions that we make around our lifestyle. And I know for me that was a really big part of what I chased for as I was growing into my 30s and 40s, was really trying to find success and an identity that I would feel. So I sort of gave myself that identity of that the seeker and the yearner, the seeker and the ideas person, and that drove a lot of my decisions. And this idea that success would bring me that sense of freedom. And it was really when I read a book called The Energy of Money. I can't remember the lady's name, but really big money coach. And The Energy of Money really started to shift the perspective and give me this idea of the money story and go back and really look at, well, what are the beliefs that I had about money, but also what are the beliefs that I had about me and what I was here to do. And when those things start to come into our awareness, you start to see how the decisions you're making, what gets influenced in the decisions you're making. Um, and then when those beliefs don't serve you anymore, things start to fall apart, which for me was in my early 30s. I gave up my corporate career, I moved to the Gold Coast, and um, I really had no money, but I hadn't gone back into the debt cycle, which is something that I had throughout my 20s. And so it was really that ground level, like that base ground level of really understanding and really looking at all the things that I had seen in my money story and working out, well, what was the things that really served me and what were the things that I need to rewrite, if you like. So this principle around radical truth is that sometimes what we find when we do some of this work is not something that we like. Um, and we don't want to create a story around that either. So the ego will be really good at creating these stories because it it is a way to protect its identity or preserve its identity. And the ego is most fearful of death, and that's the protection mechanism that we have in our brains to protect us from dying. But in this world where we have a lot of resources and a lot of things that we don't need to worry about, it goes to things that are more subconscious or more subtle. And so there's this protection mechanism that doesn't want to give up the identity. And you have to sort of go out. I feel like there's this, it's one of the things that I've said to myself through this journey of the soul money map and through this journey of all of these things is focus less on what you're giving up and more on the path that you're wanting to pave. So if I spend a lot of my time, or we spend a lot of our time on what we don't want anymore, what we're giving up, that can really trigger this protection mechanism of wanting not to let go. And so I always said, in terms of stepping on this platform, in terms of going on my soul money journey, it's more about taking the little steps forward that I can, the little steps forward in that direction of where you want to go, that for me are more powerful than trying to stop something. Because I felt like when I tried to stop something, whether it's, related, whatever in that path it is, stopping that something was harder than focusing on taking little steps. And so over that journey, it was really about learning the resourcefulness and the ability to see what really is, instead of what our perception or our filter is. So if we think about the beliefs that we have are like a filter that we put on the lens. When we start to take those filters away, we can really see what is, which is that when we that is that money is not a problem. It's a resource, and there's decisions that we have to make. And those decisions become a lot easier when we've got clarity and we've got awareness of what we're trying to achieve. And so anchoring into that place of presence is a really powerful way to really connect into that truth. And that's why it's a big part of the soul money principles, the 5 principles, because radical truth really is about not hiding anywhere. Like, it's really like going and find, like, what is the actual truth, what for us, because everyone, it's different. And when we come into that place of alignment with presence and that place of alignment with our own inner truth, it's a different feeling, and it sits differently in the body than when we are in a place of a story or a belief. And so learning how those two places feel is a critical part of finding the way forward, because now in myself and in our decisions and our lifestyle decisions and our money decisions, I can feel where the decision is being driven from. And I know that when I'm out of alignment, my decisions come very heady, and I really try to control the outcome, and I'm trying to, come up with the exact pathway to get to that outcome. When I'm in that place of presence and that place of alignment, the feeling definitely sits more in my chest, and it feels there's like this spaciousness in it that doesn't feel like it's rushed. It doesn't feel like it feels like it's clear, and it also isn't about the outcome. So it's just like there's this natural flowing up of a decision, or like the natural arising of a decision, and then it's just the next logical step. And that creates this need to have a lot of faith in the belief that we have all the answers that we need inside, and that we don't need to know what the future is going to hold. I'm not saying, by no means am I perfect in this space, because I definitely like to plan and vision and have ideas and have all these things, but I've learned to sort of let that go a little bit and just focus on what actions am I taking right now that's in alignment. What actions do I have right now that are in front of me that I can take that are in alignment? And if I'm out of alignment, it's also what are those things that I can do to help bring me back into alignment, which are things that generally for me are to come back into the body. So whether it's going for a walk or stretching or getting in nature, or it's just things that take me out of my head and bring me back into this present moment. So the money story is a really powerful way to sort of get an awareness of what some of the beliefs are, and it helps to uncover it. And the action that we can take from today is really just to write it out. Like, get a piece of paper and a pen. Prefer to write it than to, I think there's some sort of connection I feel with when we write versus when we type, but I do get both. But I think sometimes writing it is more grounding into our inner world. And to write out the story of our journey with money and the energy of money and the beliefs that we have, and just let yourself write that. Like, don't try to control what's coming, just let it come out, because I think sometimes with these exercises we can get too structured, and the structure can prevent us from really connecting into that flow. So that's all for today. I know that I haven't got on here for for a few weeks now. It's because we're really, really close to launching the Soul Money Map course, which is coming out in the next week or so, and that's where all of my energy's been going. So I think I would like to get on here at least fortnightly from now on. So hopefully we can explore some of these more concepts and principles. And the intention is really to share the soul money philosophy and to bring it to life, which is really exciting for me. But I'd love to hear from anyone that's listening to this about how you're receiving it. I don't have a structure I have a structure of the intention behind the topic, but I really want to let it just come through in the way that it needs to. So if there's any feedback on whether we need more structure or whether we want more anecdotes, or how you're receiving this info, please just share it, because that's what we're here for. And I look forward to jumping on soon. Have a wonderful day, and I'd like to hear from you. So reach out.